Hi, I don't have any viewer base at all, but I'm making this video anyway so I could document this game's development as it eventually grows into a whole game. Of course, if you go into the developer T-Flippy's channel, which I'm linking down below, you'll probably get a good enough look at all the new features since they post videos about them pretty often. I just want to add my own flair to it. This video is going to be all about setting up a world and territory control, creating a character, and spawning it. I mean, it sounds simple enough, but there are a couple of things that you can miss in your first run-through that can make starting very confusing. If I could describe this game very simply, I would call it, how about the bastard son of Factorio and Team Fortress 2. Now, like Factorio, it's all about masterminding this fantastic factory filled with, furnaces and grinders and chemical laboratories designed to produce things. However, like Team Fortress 2, the things that you produce are guns and bombs and cannons that you can use to render your enemies into tiny bits of raccoon food laying in a field of rubble. Like Dota 2, Territory Control 2 is not a sequel to a pre-existing game, but rather a mod for a pre-existing game. That's why if you go online and search Territory Control, you won't find anything about a first game anywhere. It simply doesn't exist. With that being said, the game is still very early in development, and things like vehicles and magic are still being made. Some things that you come across on your playthrough might not be finished yet. But I wouldn't be making this video if I wasn't confident that the developer and some of the people helping him aren't determined to make sure that this game is a fully built and extremely fun addition to your library. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's get to playing Territory Control 2. Now, when you boot up the game, you're instantly given the world creation panel for single-player worlds. I advise you not to go into multiplayer quite yet, and I will explain that later in my next video. Right now, the most important thing is learning how to set up your worlds and characters so you can get to learn how the game and all of its complex features work, so that when you do go into multiplayer, you won't be steamrolled by the more experienced players. It happens. Anyways, what you want to do first is give your world a name. Next, direct your attention to the 7 switches right below the world's name. The first box, SDR, does not affect the actual gameplay, so it doesn't matter whether or not you have it checked. The next box says Public. Don't switch this one on. If you do, your world will appear in the multiplayer world selection, and other players around the game could come in and mess with you and your stuff. Don't turn it on, trust me. The next button is Continue. If you are loading a pre-existing world, that means when you load the game, you'll go right back to where you were before when you disconnected, so it doesn't matter at all when you're creating a world. Next on the list, Secure enables Steam's security features in case your world is multiplayer. Once again, this doesn't matter at all when playing single player. The next one, Creative, is a little important. Like Minecraft's creative mode, you're allowed to spawn in items and creatures, but having creative mode turned on does not give you invulnerability like Minecraft does. And the special features of creative mode can be toggled on and off in the escape menu while you play. I'm going to keep this one on, as it will be useful for the tutorials I'll be making on this world. Finally, we have the button that says multi-regional. Note the tag says experimental on that button, which means it may be, but probably doesn't work. Remember that this game is still in development. However, I'm planning on making videos about every major update. The next panel that says Maps is very important. When starting a single player world, you don't want to leave this panel unchanged because you're going to end up starting your first game in a testing map for developers. You can't really do anything in it. Instead, you'll want to click one of these 4 maps on the list, being named either Valley, Staroborus, which is Czech, so are the other 2, Albus, and Dedolas. Hovering your mouse over each of these 4 options will give you a basic description about the level, and you can use that to decide which map you want to start on. For the easiest map, I recommend Staroborus, as it has the lowest amount of badgers and hornets. You're probably thinking, I'm not a pansy, so I'm gonna go with Valley or Albus because it has more resources. Trust me, 1 hornet is going to make you flip your shit as you die, over and over and over again, trying to get your hard-earned resources off of your previous body. With that being said, you're all ready to go. Ignore everything else for now, just press the big green button on your screen and you'll get going. After a short wait, you'll hear a bell sound and you'll be sent to your character selection screen. First, you'll want to go to the top right end of the interface where it says Characters and press any of the new buttons. Doing that will show you the character creation screen. Now, let me give you a rundown of the whole screen. On the far left, you have your skills. These are 6 numbers that change everything about how fast you progress in different parts of the game. These skills are dictated by your class, which is the box at the top center of the screen. Right now, the game has recognized you as the peasant you are. However, since this is a role-playing game, you don't have to be yourself. Instead, you could be anything from a builder to a lumberjack to a vagrant. For the tutorial's sake, however, I'm going to be a builder, as it has a high skill level for crafting, which can be very slow in the late game. And finally, the last thing you want to look at is the center, which is the greatest part of the whole thing, getting to change your appearance. In this current build, you'll have to work with the same hair and skin color, though that will probably be changed after T-Flippy is done developing the game's magic system. However, you can make yourself look very cool. But for this playthrough, I'm gonna keep this appearance, since I can't really make the guy look like me due to some pretty differences in melanin concentration. With that out of the way, you can finally press the big Create Character button on the bottom center of the screen. After that, you'll want to look at the panel that says Spawns. Now, on any map in the current game, you'll have 4 places that you could spawn from if your current character dies. Each place is a different location that contains different resources and buildings that could help you start your game. Since every location has the same basic resources you'll need to start your first base, I will just stick with the tower and go on from there. Finally, the most crucial part of beginning your adventure is the starting kits panel. These are basic items that your character can spawn with. No matter what, you want to select the first 2 options, which say Construction Tools and Gathering Tools. These are the basic things your character needs to gather resources and build your first machine on single player. I recommend that you check the Engineering Tools box as well, since the wrench is the last tool you'll need to complete the tutorial in the next video I've planned. Make sure to check off the Camping Kit and Building Material boxes as well, since these are very important to building the first few objects in your home base. But before we start, you might be wondering why these boxes are checked off. Now, this isn't what the developer said, but I assume that it's the logical truth. The answer to that lies in what we call tokens. Right now, next to the green spawn button on the character selection screen, there is a counter that says you have 10 tokens. Now, each starter kit costs a few tokens. Right now, this isn't a problem for you since the whole starter set costs 6.5 tokens and you have 10. However, when you spawn, these tokens are spent, and your tokens will only have 3.5 left. If you were to die immediately after spawning, you would come back to this screen to find that you only have that many tokens left. And after that, you'll have to spend your tokens wisely. Now, this isn't permanent since these tokens grow back over time. However, that process of growing back is really slow. This is a feature designed for multiplayer, as both single player and multiplayer are using the same rules. I'm sure T-Flippy knows this is a design problem and wants to fix it, but that will probably be down the line. However, if you are a good and steadfast player, dying should not be a concern to you at all. With that being said, you can press the green spawn button and there you are, your wonderful, living, not really breathing character. That will conclude the tutorial on how to start your first territory control game. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will be continuing my journey in the next few tutorial videos where I will show you a very detailed walkthrough on how to get from your first spawn to creating a fabulous stick of dynamite. Of course, there are so many things you can build in this game, but I want to have a concrete goal that we could look forward to. To give you a better idea of what you're building, here is a clip of what dynamite explosions look like in the game coming from my other world.